Hello again. Greetings. It's almost Erev Shabbat, the evening of Shabbat. And as I promised, this is day 5 of a marathon every night, every evening for 5 days, one day after another, reading the 1560 Geneva Bible, the Founder's Bible, Jefferson's Bible, the Puritans' Bible, this revolutionary Bible, and comparing it with Chabad's Hebrew text and the Revised Standard Version. So as you know, if you've been following along, we just went through 3 very tough chapters about ritual purity, how to deal with discharge, how to deal with menstrual flow, how to deal with bleeding that lasts longer than a normal menstrual cycle, how to deal with leprosy, how to deal with mold in your house, a lot of very basic avoid infectious diseases kind of purity instructions. And we talked about how those could also be metaphorical, but that the theme here in Leviticus is purity versus impurity and the importance of being kedushim, because God is kadosh, holy. So picking up again, I just wanted to say something that I didn't get a chance to say about Leviticus 15. And that's, it's about the issue of blood, about a woman who's, about what to do when women are bleeding or bleeding too much, bleeding unnaturally. And it's very clear in Leviticus 15 that you're not supposed to touch them and they're not supposed to touch you. They're really kept from touch for as long as they're bleeding. Well, what I forgot to say in our last reading is please think about, fast forwarding to the New Testament, the woman with the issue of blood in the New Testament. And you'll remember that the woman with the issue of blood is in a crowd of people around Yeshua, and they're all trying to touch him because word has spread that he's this miraculous healer, and he feels his power going out of him. And he says, "Who is it who touched me?" And then she comes forward and kind of confesses, and he sort of blesses her and says, "Don't worry, your faith has healed you." Well, put that in the context of Leviticus 15, which we read yesterday. It's not just that a woman who was sick touched his hem and didn't tell him. It's that a woman who was in a state of ritual impurity, who wasn't supposed to touch anyone, touched his hem. And he immediately forgave her and just said, your faith is going to make you whole. What that is saying, it seems to me, again, fast forward, we're not there yet. That religion hasn't been born yet. That teacher hasn't been born yet. It's thousands of years in the future. I should say about 1,500 years in the future. But what you should think about is that what Yeshua was saying there is not just, don't worry, sick lady, I forgive you for being a little rude and handling me without my permission. He's saying something much more profound. He's really referencing this Leviticus 15, which is so clear about don't touch the bleeding woman, don't let the bleeding woman touch you. And he's really saying that's not as important as loving her. And that's a radical thing to say because these are rules handed down by God. But he's definitely kind of doing 2.0 of Leviticus 15. It's serious when we violate, the law in the 5 books of Moses, but it's not as serious as not loving her and not making her feel better and not accepting her. So I just want you to keep that in mind. That's kind of the bigger picture as we zoom out from Leviticus 15 and kind of glance ahead at the story in the New Testament of the woman with the issue of blood. And by the way, everyone around the woman in that crowd would have known oh, this woman is in a state of ritual impurity and she touched the garment of the rabbi. That's so bad. That's so forbidden. That's so wrong, according to Leviticus 15. And Yeshua was saying, let's move up a degree, or keep the bigger picture in mind, which is, yes, the law is important, but love is the essence of the law, essentially. And it's more important than the details, which is, such a challenging thing to say in that time in a Jewish context, right? It's really like saying, just ignore God. So it's no wonder, I'm not justifying anything, but I'm telling you that to give you the context of why Yeshua's teaching was so revolutionary and challenging and radical, not just for the Roman occupiers, but for the Jews who are trying to follow the teachings of the law as well. And he was kind of bringing a new, dramatically alternative interpretation to what was really the takeaway about purity and impurity. And by the way, we're really fast forwarding now, but if, we've gone through these 3 chapters about purity and impurity. And I really want you to think about, if you've read the New Testament, how much of the message of Yeshua in the New Testament is really relating to these 3 chapters, really talking about purity and impurity, but in a whole new way. He really talks a lot about what does it mean to be unclean? What does it mean to be impure? It's not just, have you had your ritual bath? Have you changed your clothes? It's deeper. Are you a whited sepulcher, right? Looking really nice and pretty and clean on the outside, right? Referencing, the washing, the changing of the garments, but really gross and sort of corrupt and immoral on the inside. So he's really referencing, this well-known section of Leviticus that is so fundamental to a Jewish practice in the first century, and saying, let's think more deeply about this. What was God really after? Was God really just after change your clothes, wash yourself, or was he really, really after be pure on the inside? And by the way, Yeshua isn't kind of making it up there. It's in the text in Leviticus, 13, 14, 15. At the end of each of these chapters about purity, Yeshua says something like, this is the law for leprosy. This is the law for an issue of blood. This is a law for discharge. Be holy because I'm holy. The children of Israel have to be pure. So Yeshua is really picking up very much where Yahweh left off, and saying, let's go deeper into this idea of purity. Let's understand it even more holistically. But it was right there in the text, if you looked. So you can really see this as one story that's kind of evolving over time as human beings become more sophisticated, and they can grasp the idea over time that it's not just about washing your clothes, sacrificing a dove. It's also, or even more so, this text is about what's in your heart. All right. Luckily or happily, not to blaspheme, but just some chapters are easier than others. We're getting to a really interesting chapter now, Leviticus 16. And thank you all for joining me on a early Friday evening. And I've got to zip along because I've started to observe Shabbat, as you know, and at sundown, I need to stop and light the candles. But let's go to the 1560 Geneva Bible. Again, just go to genevabible1560.com if you don't have the big, beautiful book. If you can get the big, beautiful book, it's a gorgeous thing to have. But this is available for free in case you can't get it for whatever reason. All right, chapter 16. And the subheadline in the 1560 text is, the priest might not at all times come into the most holy place, the scapegoat, the purging of the sanctuary, the cleansing of the tabernacle. The priest confesses the sins of the people, the feast of cleansing sins. So this is where Yom Kippur comes from. Furthermore, the Lord spoke unto Moses, after the death of the two sons of Aaron, when they came to offer before the Lord and died. And the Lord said unto Moses, speak unto Aaron your brother, that he come not at all times, meaning just whenever he wants, into the holy place within the veil before the mercy seat, which is upon the ark, that he die not. For I will appear in the cloud upon the mercy seat. After this sort, like accordingly, shall Aaron come into the holy place, even with a young bullock for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. He shall put on the holy linen coat, and shall have linen breeches upon his flesh, and shall be girded with a linen girdle, and meaning belt, and shall cover his head with a linen mitre. These are the holy garments, therefore shall he wash his flesh in water when he does put them on. And he shall take of the congregation of the children of Israel 2 he-goats for a sin offering, and a ram for a burnt offering. Then Aaron shall offer the bullock for his sin offering, and make an atonement for himself and for his house. And he shall take the 2 he-goats and present them before the Lord at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. Then Aaron shall cast lots over the 2 he-goats, one lot for the Lord and the other for the scapegoat. And Aaron shall offer the goat upon which the Lord's lot shall fall, meaning like casting lots. Well, you know what it means. It's like throwing dice almost. Then Aaron shall cast lots over the 2 he-goats, one lot for the Lord and the other for the scapegoat. And Aaron shall offer the goat upon which the Lord's lot shall fall, and make him a sin offering. But the goat on which the lot shall fall to be the scapegoat shall be presented alive before the Lord, to make reconciliation by him, and to let him go as a scapegoat into the wilderness. Thus Aaron shall offer the bullock for his sin offering, and make a reconciliation for himself and for his house, and shall kill the bullock for his sin offering. And he shall take a censer, where you burn incense, full of burning coals from off the altar before the Lord, and his handful of sweet incense beaten small, and bring it within the veil. And shall put the incense upon the fire before the Lord, that the cloud of the incense may cover the mercy seat that is upon the testimony, so he shall not die. And he shall take the blood of the bullock and sprinkle it with his finger upon the mercy seat eastward, and before the mercy seat shall he sprinkle of the blood of his finger 7 times. Then he shall kill the goat that is the people's sin offering, and bring his blood within the veil, and do with that blood as he did with the blood of the bullock, and sprinkle it upon the mercy seat and before the mercy seat. So he shall purge the holy place from the uncleanness of the children of Israel, and from their trespasses of all their sins. So shall he do also for the tabernacle of the congregation, placed with them in the midst of their uncleanness. And there shall be no man in the tabernacle of the congregation when he goes in to make an atonement in the holy place until he come out, and have made an atonement for himself and for his household and for all the congregation of Israel. After he shall go out unto the altar that is before the Lord, and make a reconciliation upon it, and shall take of the blood of the bullock and of the blood of the goat, and put it upon the horns of the altar round about. So shall he sprinkle of the blood upon it with his finger 7 times, and cleanse it, and hallow it from the uncleanness of the children of Israel. Hi, everyone. It's Naomi Wolf. The American healthcare system is broken. Big pharma charges an arm and a leg for their products, while insurance companies are focused on growing healthcare spending. So I'm always researching ways to take care of myself naturally. And one of the most overlooked factors is improving your blood flow. That means more oxygen and nutrients to your brain, heart, muscles. All our bodies need a little extra help as we get older. I use Blood Flow 7 from Juvenon. It works by boosting nitric oxide levels 230% and opening arteries up to 62% to improve blood flow. With just 1 dose a day, it's helped improve my stamina, energy, focus, and it supports my heart health, all without caffeine or stimulants. It's doctor formulated, scientifically backed with premium and natural ingredients. I wouldn't share it if it didn't work for me and for people I love. So go to www.bloodflow7.com/daily clout or click the link in the description below to learn more today. When he has made an end of purging the holy place and the tabernacle of the congregation and the altar, then he shall bring the live goat. And Aaron shall put both his hands upon the head of the live goat and confess over him all the iniquities of the children of Israel and all their trespasses in all their sins, putting them upon the head of the goat, and shall send him away by the hand of a man appointed into the wilderness. So the goat shall bear upon him all their iniquities, meaning sin, into the land that is not inhabited, and he shall let the goat go into the wilderness. After, Aaron shall come into the tabernacle of the congregation and put off the linen clothes which he put on when he went into the holy place, and leave them there. He shall wash also his flesh with water in the holy place, and put on his own raiment, and come out and make his burnt offering and the burnt offering of the people, and make an atonement for himself and for the people. Also the fat of the sin offering shall he burn upon the altar. And he that carried forth the goat, called the scapegoat, shall wash his clothes and wash his flesh in water, and after that shall come into the host, meaning into the community. Also the bullock for the sin offering and the goat for the sin offering, whose blood was brought to make a reconciliation in the holy place, shall one carry out without the host, to be burnt in the fire with their skins and with their flesh and with their dung. And he that burns them shall wash his clothes and wash his flesh in water, and afterwards come into the host, into the community. So this shall be an ordinance forever unto you. The 10th day of the 7th month, you shall humble your souls and do no work at all, whether it be one of the same country or a stranger that sojourns among you. For that day shall the priest make an atonement for you to cleanse you. You shall be clean from all your sins before the Lord. This shall be a Sabbath of rest unto you, and you shall humble your souls by an ordinance forever. And the priest whom he shall anoint and whom he shall consecrate to minister in his father's stead shall make the atonement, and shall put on the linen clothes and holy vestments, and shall purge the holy sanctuary and the tabernacle of the congregation, and shall cleanse the altar, and make an atonement for the priests and for all the people of the congregation. And this shall be an everlasting ordinance unto you, to make an atonement for the children of Israel for all their sins once a year. And as the Lord commanded Moshe, he did. So that is so nice. We have over 1,000 people on a Friday night watching from all over the world and joining us. And it's really beautiful. I always think before I begin, this is so weird and eccentric. I wonder if anyone will show up. And it's so beautiful to me to see those numbers just growing and growing, especially because there are all kinds of things you could be doing on a Friday night. So I'm really happy you're here. So you know, because you've been with us for a while, and if you have just joined, you should know that you're probably picking up a number of themes there already. There's the number 7, the magical number 7. There's that almost incantatory washing with water and being clean, right, as part of ritual approach to God. There's, once again, I mean, it's just amazing to me how this is just written out of most modern religions that are ostensibly based on these texts. There's God again, visible. Like there's God making arrangements with humans to not kill them by being in his visible presence. You know, we've seen this a couple of times before, and you literally are not taught, usually in Christianity or in Judaism or in Islam, to my knowledge, that God appeared multiple times in the Hebrew Bible to humans, like showing up, you know, visibly, right? Not this distant, invisible, abstracted being, but literally someone who's physically visible to everybody, not just the priest. Sorry, not just Moses. Pardon me. So what we have here is, I don't know if you caught it, but Yahweh is saying to the priests, pardon me, there's a peanut on my teeth. I didn't mean for that to happen. God is saying to the priests, you need to make special arrangements and not just walk in at any time to the Holy of Holies because you could die. Because he literally says, I'll be in a cloud above the mercy seat, right? Above, in between those golden wings of the cherubim at the top of the Ark of the Covenant. God will be there in a cloud, perfectly visible. And if you just, bump into him when you walk in unexpectedly as a mortal human being, you could die. So he's making elaborate arrangements to essentially protect humans from being so overwhelmed by his physical, visible presence that they might die. And so he goes so far as to say, okay, you need to burn incense to create a cloud which obscures the cloud that I am visibly in above the Ark of the Covenant. It's just incredible. And it's almost like it's such an extraordinary story, such a different story, because it's very much of an adventure story almost. It's very thrilling and active. We've seen God show up in a pillar of fire, and we've seen God show up and wrestle in the form of an angel, and we've seen God show up with two other guys to tell Sarah she was going to have a baby, and we've seen God show up to Moshe in a cloud or in a burning bush. And God's just showing up all over the place, just like literally showing up to these people, like continually. And then a couple of beats back, God showed up and consumed, Aaron's two sons by fire. And everyone, and earlier God let fire consume a sacrifice that was improper, and everyone saw it and fell on their faces. Like, God's just showing up, right? It's just incredible. And were you taught that in Sunday school? That God shows up all the time, regularly, visibly, right there, in multiple guises in the Hebrew Bible. I barely was told that. I mean, we were sort of taught about the burning bush, but and certainly, Moshe saw God. We were taught that on, Mount Sinai, but I don't think we're taught, like, there are multiple times, there must be 6 or 7 times by now in the Hebrew Bible where God's just showing up, and the physicality of what he's describing that he wants to have happen to make a home for him in the middle of the camp, in the middle of the community. It's so material, right? He's not like this, oh, go to church, go to synagogue, I'm somewhere abstractly, you can't possibly know me. No, it's like, could you please make silver bells and, pomegranate embroidery, because I'm going to be living with you right there in this tent in the middle of the camp. It's just incredible. And now he's saying, like, almost like giving instructions to a babysitter, if you get hungry, eat this in the refrigerator, but don't eat that because, it may be past its sell-by date. He's literally saying, don't come in unexpectedly, because I'm God and I'm going to be right there in a cloud above the mercy seat, and you could die. So, let's give you some preparation to protect you. Right? It's just amazing. God's like, I'm right here on, knock before you come in. Right? God is so close and so physical and so palpable. It's almost like I read these early chapters at this point and God's character as, early on, he tried to live with humans in a material form, on a material plane, and they just couldn't deal with it. They couldn't obey him. They couldn't align with him. They couldn't take the care that he needed them to take to be holy. So as a result, over time, he sort of abstracted himself, still wanting to be in a communication with them, but later on using intermediaries like prophets, right? Or kings like David. So that's kind of sad, and very moving that in God's early relationship with his people, he so believed that he could find a way to physically live with them on this material planet that he keeps trying. Like, I'll show up in a fire, I'll show up in a cloud, they'll get the hang of it, and they just don't. It's kind of tragic. Like, you almost think, if they had been more attentive and more disciplined, we could still have God living visibly with us on this planet in a cloud, in the middle of the camp, right? We wouldn't have to be like looking for this invisible being and trying to invoke him into our lives when we can't even see him. Once upon a time, people could see God. Isn't that a trip? I find that super trippy and quite amazing. So now let's go to the Revised Standard Version. And I'm not going to read it all the way through, but it's interesting. They do translate line 2 as the Lord said to Moses, tell your brother Aaron not to come just at any time into the sanctuary inside the curtain before the mercy seat that is upon the ark, or he will die. For I appear in the cloud upon the mercy seat. You have to stay healthy and well at times like this. You know that I often have suffered from mobility issues, and now I don't. Part of my lifestyle is Native Path collagen. So Native Path's collagen formula is made with ingredients that are scientifically developed to increase bone mineral density, support tissue recovery, reduce wrinkles, enhance hair thickness, and strengthen nails. Who wouldn't want more collagen with all of these benefits? So right now, when you visit getnativepath.com/daily cloud, you can stock up on Native Path collagen for up to an incredible 45% off today, plus free shipping. Every order comes with a 365-day money-back guarantee. You can try it risk-free today. It is a single ingredient formula with no fillers, additives, or artificial sweeteners, and it's third-party tested for heavy metals, which makes sure that it's pure and safe. It's flavorless. You can add it to anything. I add it to my oatmeal. You can add it to coffee or smoothies. Its formula makes it more bioavailable, meaning it's absorbed more easily and mixes without clumping. And the best part is Native Path is offering amazing bundle deals, 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. With over 4 million jars sold, 1 million happy customers, 8,000 5-star reviews, and a 365-day no-risk guarantee, Native Path is a trusted choice, and they offer an 800 number. You can ask any question. A real person is waiting to help. You can join a private Facebook community. I love these people. Share recipes, success stories. So that's getnativepath.com/daily cloud and start your experience of transformation today. So that's very casual. Don't come just at any time. I appear in the cloud. I wonder if it says that in Hebrew. The other thing I want to look at is how he sums it up, how they sum it up at line 29. This shall be a statute to you forever. In the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, you shall deny yourselves and shall do no work, neither the citizen nor the alien who resides among you. For on this day, atonement shall be made for you to cleanse you from all your sins. You shall be clean before the Lord. It is a Sabbath of complete rest to you, and you shall deny yourselves. It is a statute forever. This shall, in this line 34, this shall be an everlasting statute for you to make atonement for the people of Israel once in the year for all their sins. And Moshe did as the Lord had commanded him. And then I want to go back to line 20 where they're dealing with the goat. So he presents a live goat. Line 21, that Aaron shall lay both his hands on the head of the live goat and confess over it all the iniquities of the people of Israel and all their transgressions, all their sins, putting them on the head of the goat and sending it away into the wilderness by means of someone designated to the task. the goat shall bear on itself all their iniquities to a barren region, and the goat shall be set free in the wilderness. Now, I'm really going to blow your mind. The Revised Standard Version is erasing a very big controversy about Azazel. And let's see if Leviticus talks about Azazel. Azazel. All right. So Azazel is in Leviticus 16:10. It's very controversial. In the original Hebrew, Azazel, it could mean the name of a place or the power to which one of the goats in the temple service of the Day of Atonement was sent. And there's a great deal of confusion. I'm reading from jewishvirtuallibrary.org regarding the exact meaning of the word. The name appears in Leviticus 16:8-10. And this is how they translate it. And Aaron shall cast lots upon the two goats, one lot for the Lord and the other lot for Azazel. And Aaron shall present the goat upon which the lot fell for the Lord and offer him for a sin offering. But the goat on which the lot fell for Azazel shall be set alive before the Lord. And I'm sorry, I thought there was a bear outside, but it's just a cat. And offer him for a sin offering. But the goat upon which the lot fell for Azazel shall be set alive before the Lord to make atonement over him, to send him away for Azazel into the wilderness, end quote. So they point out the goat which was dispatched to Azazel was not a sacrifice since it was not slaughtered. From the actual verses themselves, it is not even certain whether the goat was killed. Thus, it seems that the two goats can be compared to the two birds used in the purification of the leper. The idea that the goat was loaded with the sins of Israel is expressed in the Mishnah, which relates that the Babylonians used to pluck the hair of the goat and proclaim, "Take and go," which is explained as meaning, why is this goat waiting here when the sins of the generation are many and are upon them? So later in the Babylonian exile, this tradition continued of the goat going off in the wilderness. A detailed description of the ritual in the Second Temple is found in the Mishnah in the general description of the avodah, meaning worship service of the Day of Atonement. The high priest cast lots. Upon one, the word le'adonai, for the Lord, was written, and upon the other, le'azazel, for Azazel. Afterward, he drew lots, and on the head of the goat chosen for Azazel, he bound a thread of crimson wool and stood the animal opposite the gate through which it would ultimately be taken. After the high priest had performed several other rituals, he returned to the goat, placed his hands on it, and confessed, "O God, thy people, the house of Israel, has sinned and transgressed before thee." He then handed the goat over to the person who was going to take it, called Ish Iti, the man who had been prepared for that time, Et. Although any Jew was qualified to fulfill this function, the high priest did not allow the non-priests to do it. And then they threw the goat over a cliff in Second Temple days. So they point out that the ritual of the goat is compared to several other customs in the ancient world. In Babylonia, there was a festival of Akitu, where they gave a goat as a substitute for a human being to Eresh Kigal, the goddess of the abyss. And there's an Akkadian magical inscription from the city of Assur, which deals with a cure for a man who's unable to eat or drink. And it's prescribed that a goat should be tied to his bed, and thus the sickness will pass to the goat. And then the next morning, the goat is to be taken to the desert and decapitated. And then its flesh cooked and put in a pit together with honey and oil, perhaps as an offering to demons. So the Hittites had a goat ritual to carry the plague into enemy territory. In the Hellenistic world, which came later, of course, there were also scapegoat rituals. And they were done in times of trouble. And the exact meaning of Azazel is in dispute already in the time of the Talmud. Some felt it's the name of the place to which the goat was sent, which is how the Revised Standard Version translates this passage, like the wilderness, while others believed it was the name of some power. It's like vestigial. It sounds like it's actually vestigial of a time when people believed in supernatural powers that were not God, that God was more great and powerful then, but that the world still has supernatural powers. So Azazel, so God gets a burnt offering while Azazel gets a sin offering. This view is reinforced by the widespread belief that the wilderness was the habitat of demons. The demonic identification would indicate that the original purpose of the ritual was to get rid of the evil by banishing it to its original source. And I will tell you, even in modern Hebrew, when you say go to hell to someone, you say lech le'azazel, go to Azazel. So go to the demons, right? Go to the wilderness. So this is incredibly interesting because it's in the Hebrew, this reference to this scapegoat going to Azazel, being, one goat goes to God and is sacrificed, and the other is sent out into the wilderness to Azazel. And Azazel could be a vestigial power, and it's a similar ritual to what idolatrous tribes were doing with goats, where the goat is supposed to take on the evil, the difficulty, the suffering, the sickness of the person in question. So, and in this case, the whole community. And I will tell you also, to this very day, when you go to Yom Kippur services, there are vestiges of this. Obviously, we don't have real goats anymore. That ended. We don't have a scapegoat, but we still do what this passage tells us to do. It says, it's translated in Revised Standard Version as deny yourselves. And in Hebrew, the root is to make yourself poor or afflicted. And so we interpret that as fast. And so we still fast on Yom Kippur to this day. And to this day, even in conservative temples, and I grew up in a conservative synagogue, the rabbi will wear special garments, special clothing just for Yom Kippur, exactly as God told, Aaron and Moshe to do thousands of years ago. I think that's kind of amazing. So now let's go to the Hebrew, and let me see if you have any questions or comments. I don't see any questions or comments, so I'll just keep going. On the other hand, there are lots of comments. Sorry, I was looking in the wrong place. Sean Rhodes, one of our best scholars, says the goat for Azazel is an offering to one of the rebellious angels we learn about in the first book of Enoch. And you're absolutely right. Enoch is a forbidden book, or it was cut from later Christian collections of the Hebrew Bible. It's a very mysterious book of the Old Testament. And indeed, Azazel is a rebellious angel there. And he says the goat for the Lord is an offering to the angel of the Lord, aka Michael. I don't know that. Maybe you're referencing Enoch. Doug Belcher says, love it, like Jesus returning to be visible for 40 days after his Holy Spirit powered resurrection to the 12 apostles. Very much like that, and hundreds of others per Acts. And Stephanie Mo Davis says, thank you for sharing the most important information. I appreciate that. Betsy Dooner says, so amazing. Right? I literally my head is exploding. And I should know this stuff, and I don't. I just glanced at it, over the course of many years. I didn't sit down and read it in context, let alone with commentary. And John's Ray says, so amazing. So it is incredibly amazing. What is Azazel? But you're not going to know that Azazel even exists if you read the Revised Standard Version. Let's go back and look at line 8 in the Revised Standard Version. Oh, no, he's here in the Revised Standard Version. I beg your pardon. And Aaron shall cast lots on the 2 goats, one lot for the Lord and the other lot for Azazel. And may be sent away into the wilderness to Azazel. Okay, so they do include it. And I just want to see how God says, I'll be in the cloud in the Hebrew. Well, let's just go ahead and read the Hebrew, because you guys are incredibly cool and you seem patient when I read you the Hebrew. V'yedaber Adonai el Moshe, and spoke God toward Moses. Achrei mot shnei bnei Aharon, after the death of Aaron's two sons, bekarvatam lifnei Adonai v'yamutu. And you remember that important word lehakriv, that important root, in their coming near before the face of God, and they died. V'yomer Adonai el Moshe, and God said to Moses, hey everyone, it's Naomi Wolf of Daily Clout. Have you ever wondered why your brain can feel foggy even when you're eating clean and exercising? It might not be burnout, it could be parasites. Groundbreaking research from Dr. Alan MacDonald reveals a direct link between chronic parasite infections and neurological diseases, such as multiple sclerosis. Parasites can cause inflammation, nerve damage, and long-term cognitive decline. More reason to do a full body cleanse at least once a year. The wellness company has a solution for you, ivermectin and mebendazole, the gold standard parasite solution, now combined in one cleanse combo, designed to eliminate harmful invaders and support your immune system naturally. Medical grade, not some trendy herbal gimmick. Fill out a quick intake form and you'll get a 3-month supply shipped straight to your door. Maha is officially here, and the wellness company is making hard to get medications digitally accessible so you can live your best life. Head to dailyclout.health and use code dailyclout to save $60 off plus free shipping on all orders. Cleanse your body today. Get rid of parasites today. Thank you. Daber el Aharon achicha, speak to your brother Aaron, ve'al yavo bechol et, that he shouldn't come in every instant. El hakodesh, toward the holy of holies, mibet la parochet, el pnei hakaporet, asher al haaron, that he should not come just whenever he wants into the holy within the dividing curtain in front of the cover that is upon the ark, velo yamut, so he should not die. Ki be'anan era'eh al hakaporet. So this is a very different phrasing than the one you get in the Revised Standard Version. In the Revised Standard Version, it says something like, for I appear in the cloud upon the mercy seat. And in the Hebrew, he's literally saying, because in a cloud, I will make myself visible over the kaporet, over the Ark of the Covenant. So he's not hiding in a cloud. He's making himself visible. He's revealing himself in a cloud. Very different. Isn't that an interesting difference? Bezot yavo Aharon, with this shall Aaron arrive, el hakodesh, toward the holiness, befar ben bakar lechetat ve'ayel leolah, with a young bull for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. And then there are the technical instructions, the he-goats, placing them before the Lord. And here's line 8. V'natan Aharon, and gave Aaron, al shnei haseirim, on the 2 goats, gralot, goral, echad, lots, 1 lot l'Adonai, to God, v'goral echad le'azazel, and the other lot for Azazel. V'Aharon, v'hikriv Aharon, and he drew near, Aaron, et haseir, toward the goat, asher ala alav hagoral, which went up on it, the lot l'Adonai, to God, ve'asahu chatat, and designated it as a sin offering. Ve'haseir asher ala alav hagoral, and the goat, which was going up on it, the lot le'azazel, yamad chai, should be stood up while still alive, lifnei Adonai, in front of the face of God, lekaper alav, to atone upon it, le shalach oto le Azazel, to send it to hell, or to send it to Azazel, hamidbara, in the direction of the desert. Wow. And we don't know what Azazel is. It doesn't, it doesn't explain. It just says the other goat goes to Azazel. And then let's read 16. V'kiper al hakodesh, and there would be atoning on the Holy of Holies, mitumat bnei Israel, from the defilements of the children of Israel, umi pishehem, and from their rebellions, lechol chatatam, and all their sins, v'chen ya'aseh, and thus it will make le'ohel moed, to the tent of meeting, ha sochen itam betoch tum atam, which is a neighbor among you amid their defilements. So again, this is stressing, God's living right down the street in a tent, and you really have to atone and have an atonement for your rebellions and your defilements and your unintentional sins, because he's right down the street. And the next line stresses it. V'chol adam lo Adonai ba'ohel moed, and every man, and no man, and every man not God in the tent of meeting, beba'o lekaper bakodesh, when he comes to effect atonement, ad seto, on his own behalf, v'chiper be'ado u'be'ad beito, and when he comes to atone for his own sake and for the sake of his household, u'be'ad kol kehal Israel, and on behalf of all the children of Israel. So no man should be in the tent of meeting when he comes to effect atonement in the holy, until he comes out. Who is he? And he shall effect atonement. It looks like he is the priest. And then they sprinkle blood, and the goat goes off and sends the scapegoat into the desert with a timely man, ish iti, a man of the moment, hamid bara, toward the desert. And then it says, so interesting, v'nasa ha'seir, and the goat will carry alav, on himself, et kol onatam, all the sins, el eretz gzera, toward a precipitous land, ve'shilach et haseir bamidbar, and the goat will be sent off into the desert. And then the priest makes the sacrifice and effects atonement to cleanse you. Before the Lord, you'll be cleansed of all your sins. That's line 30. Ki bayom hazeh, because on this day, yekaper alechem, it will be atoned upon you, letaher etchem, to purify you, mikol chatatechem, from all of your sins, lifnei, before God, before the face of God, titharu, you will be made pure. And I just want you to hear, unlike in the translations, in the original, this is a technology for purification. It's not about you've sinned, you're messed up, God's given up on you. It's literally, this is how you purify. Everyone sins, you're human, it's very serious, but God is still going to give you these technologies to purify yourself. And then it goes into line 31, which is very beautiful. Shabbat Shabbatonhi. It is a Sabbath of rest, but you hear that echo, same root. Shabbat Shabbatonhi. Lachem, to you. Ve'initem et nafshtechem, and you will impoverish your spirits. Chukat olam. It is a law for the world forever. And the priest will effect this atonement, and he shall effect atonement upon the Holy of Holies, and he shall effect atonement upon the tent of meeting and upon the altar, and he shall effect atonement upon the Kohanim, the priests, and upon all the people in the congregation. So you should notice here, and I say it a lot, that the priest is not elevated. The priest is a helper. He's a special helper. but he's not above everyone else who needs atoning. He's among them, even in the sentence, right? Everyone is needing to be kaperd on, to be atoned upon. And it ends just like the last few chapters end with kind of a concluding, this is an eternal law, this is a statute, v'hayita zot, and it will be this lachem, to you, lechukat olam, as a law to the world, meaning forever, lechaper al bnei Israel, to atone on the children of Israel, michol chatatam, from all their sins, achat bashana, once a year, v'ya'as ka asher tziva Adonai, and he did, oseh is to do, and he did, ka asher tziva Adonai, as commanded God et Moshe, to Moses. So there it is. That's why we have Yom Kippur. And those of you who are familiar with Yom Kippur know about it. And those of you who are not familiar, honestly, until I read this, I've been observing Yom Kippur my whole life, barely understanding it. It's kind of, I'm not going to say it's a drag, but it's like, it's hard to fast. Honestly, I don't fast every year. The readings are not the Torah. They're not this whole chapter, right? They're little snippets. I mean, I feel like I've read snippets of the goat being sent off to Azazel. But it's many, many, prayers and commentaries, especially in Reform and Conservative Judaism, that are kind of unrelated to this very basic, profound technology of purification. And honestly, it's such a different emphasis. It's such an emphasis on, and I think it has some psychological value. You really name all the things you've done wrong in the last year. And I've talked about Yom Kippur before when we were talking about the Ark of the Covenant, which is directly related to atoning. But on Yom Kippur, you say, Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Dipaknu Dofi, you beat your breast or your chest, not literally your breast, you do this. And you say, we've sinned, we've done wickedly, we've gossiped, we've cheated, we've, borne false witness. And it's very heavy, right? And you really have to go face to face with literally everything you've done wrong in the last year. And as I've said before, what I really do like about it, I think it is very healthy, is you have to go, not just say apologize to God, but you have to apologize to human beings specifically for what you've done and say, will you forgive me? I'm sorry. And I think that's very healing in a community as well, or in a family. I find it very healing, but I didn't know, it's not presented as, at least in conservative Judaism, as a technology of purification, that you're doing all of this for a happy reason, right? It's really like religion has morphed so much to stress this notion that you are just a really pathetic worm and God is almost done with you. But in the context of Leviticus, God is trying really hard, right? Chapter after chapter after chapter. It's like being in couples therapy. Like, I know we're going to get there, children of Israel. Just hang in there. Let's work at it. Just do this little thing and do that little thing. And then I can live with you and keep giving you all these blessings and give you a land flowing with milk and honey and love you forever and give you eternal life. And what he's giving us are technologies of purification, literally technologies. And he's like literally right there. And you're really not told on Yom Kippur, at least in conservative synagogues, this is a day in which we joyfully do what God asked us to do in Leviticus 16, because he gave us a technology of purification to reconcile with him. And by the way, I really like that word reconcile. It was in the Geneva Bible in this chapter, not in the RSV, and not even in Chabad's translation that I saw. But that's really what it's about. Reconciliation even in math, when you reconcile something or you reconcile your checkbook, you're making something align and make sense and be harmonious and integrate. And these technologies of purification in the Geneva Bible and in the Hebrew really do sound more like, this is how you reconcile with God. This is how you like after a fight, when you bring your wife or your husband, let's say wife, flowers and say you're sorry, that's reconciling, right? And that purifies the relationship again. Well, and it ends the estrangement. Well, that's what these technologies are like in the Hebrew. It's really not, you're disgusting. And I just can't say that enough, because I just feel like most of Western Judeo-Christian religion has devolved into, mistranslations, which are about saying you're disgusting, God is awesome, you can't see him, only the priest can see him, only the, whatever intermediary can connect with him, and you just have to keep apologizing because your mere existence is a blot on the earth. And literally, that's not what the Hebrew says. So I hope you hear me. Tell me in the comments that you hear me, because this is such a steady theme. And to me, it is a game changer, right? It's a whole different story. It's a completely different story. And maybe the whole world would be different if people understood that this was a different story, and that this was the story, and that God is always waiting, actively down the street, in the cloud, over the, in the tent of meeting. And you just have to like wash and change your clothes and, knock and come at the appropriate time in the appropriate way and, reconcile. So you can hang out together, and never abandoning you, right? Never, ever, ever abandoning us. Like always working to be with us, to reconcile with us. So Betsy Dooner says, yes, you hear me. Good, because it blows me away. So Sandy Hardy points out, Sandy Hardy comes up with some really interesting, germane comments that are much more down to earth, which are important because, we inherit this text as a sacred text with, two major religions built on it, really three, because Islam considers this a sacred text as well. And yet also it was a set of instructions given to a tribal people in the middle of the desert thousands of years ago in a completely different, physical and cultural context. So Sandy Hardy, I don't know if Sandy is a man or a woman, so I'll just say Sandy, says, fasting has been proven to kill parasites. It also gives your organs a break. And this is really interesting because there was no refrigeration in the desert during the period that Leviticus was lived by the children of Israel. And meat had parasites for sure. And there were parasites for sure. And interestingly, all of the Abrahamic religions have fasting. In some contexts. Christianity has Lent, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, and there used to be, with Catholicism, many fast days, often related to saints, as I recall. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. And Islam, of course, has Ramadan, where you fast during the daylight hours and you eat at night. But fasting does kill parasites, and it does give your organs a break. And, modern science now is finding that it has many, many life-saving, detoxifying qualities. So just like Sandy Hardy pointed out, that a week alone in the menstruation tent could have given women kind of a break that they needed from, being slaves to their households and, sex workers in the home, basically, to their husbands. I don't mean to be vulgar, but women had zero legal rights then. So by the same token, fasting once a year could be a way for God to ensure not just the, spiritual health of his family, but also some physical health. I think that's fascinating. Autumn Smith says something really moving, and she's a friend of ours in Michigan. And she says, that's why I was an atheist for so long. Here, let me show this comment, it's so moving, was because I never felt like, according to the Bible, I could ever be good enough or measure up to being the ideal person as God speaks of in the Bible. Autumn, so many people feel that way. And now we know why, I think. These consistent mistranslations in modern English Bibles lean always in that direction, right? They're not random. It's not like half of them make people feel better and half of them make people feel worse. 90% of the mistranslations we've seen are in this direction, to make people feel like they don't measure up. God will never consider you good enough. And I really hope that you're seeing in this journey, and if you're new to it, I encourage you to go back and listen to some of the earlier chapters. That is just not what it says. And it's just not what God is communicating again and again and again. What he's communicating is, I love you, stop being an idiot. Here, let me help you. Let me be patient with you. Don't do self-destructive things. I shouldn't say stop being an idiot. Don't do like a good parent loves a child. Don't do self-destructive things. Don't drive drunk. Don't take ketamine. I love you, right? I mean, that's really what God is like in these chapters, and I'm right here, and you can visit me anytime. Just wash your clothes, and bring the incense, because I'm God and I don't want to kill you inadvertently by being so holy when you're, not quite prepared. So I hope that I really hope, I know a lot of people listening might really resonate to what Autumn Smith said. I know a lot of people give up. They just give up because that's what the modern Bibles kind of lead them to feel. They're just never good enough. And if they ever make one mistake, they feel like, well, God will never accept me. And that's literally just not who God is as a character in this narrative. It's the opposite of who God is as a character in this narrative. And the opposite of the social contract that he wants. Like he, as he said to Moshe, I made you. Like, he knows who we are. He made us. He knows where we blow it. He knows where we lose our tempers. He knows where we've cheated. He knows where we lie. He knows where we're addicted, or short-tempered, or whatever bad thing we do, adulterous, lustful. I mean, I could go on and on, jealous, petty. He knows all of that, but he's like, in the mistranslations, he's like, how could you do those things? How dare you come near me? I'm God. I don't do those things. Whereas in the Hebrew Bible, he's like, yeah, you're going to do those things because you're human and I made you, and, you're not perfect and I'm perfect, and we have to bridge that gap. So do these things, and then I can help you and bless you and support you better. That's the social contract he wants. He knows that we mess up, right? He made us, right? And he's literally giving us technologies to come back, tshuva, to return. In the Hebrew, it's like return, 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 because in the Hebrew, God knows you're going to wander off, right? And so it's always a matter of returning. But you can return forever. You can return your whole life. You don't want to die in your sin, for sure. You don't want to keep sinning. That's very serious. But the dance that God understands humans are caught up in is one where they're always going to need to return because they're human. And he's always giving them technologies and guidance and support in returning. He can't make the need to return go away, right? Because when you hear him say at the end of these chapters, Zot chok leolam, this is a law or a statute forever for the world. He is explaining that there are some moral laws in this universe, that are immutable. We don't know why, right? If he's God, presumably he could break the chok leolam. But, it's clear in these chapters that we're living in a dimension that has moral laws. And he set it up that way. And that's real. All right. Let's see. But thank you, Autumn, for sharing that. Let's see. James Green says, Matthew 12:43, a demon in the wilderness tends to want to occupy an empty, tidy dwelling of someone who lives in their head as opposed to someone who joins in a social community, I think you're saying. That's a really interesting conversation because you're right. There is an important passage in the Gospels about demons who occupy an empty dwelling, meaning a person, basically, and won't leave. And the demons are associated with the wilderness. And now that I think about it, various sections in the New Testament associate demons with the wilderness. For instance, that passage where Yeshua casts demons out of people who are crazy and casts them into a herd of swine, and then the swine run off into the wilderness and are destroyed, as I recall. They're going, Lazazel or Midbara, they're going into the desert, into the wilderness. So, yeah, the wilderness is associated with demons and negativity, curses, and so on. Now, Sandy Hardy said, I thought Azazel and the scapegoat were synonymous. No, just to be clear, the scapegoat goes to Azazel. It belongs to Azazel. And the debate is Azazel a place like the wilderness, or is Azazel an entity, right? A kind of not God entity. And we don't know the answer. Sean Rhodes has a long passage from Daniel 12:1, which I'd like to return to in our next conversation because I'm not really sure where it fits into this chapter, and we're almost out of time, but thank you, Sean. And you also say, it's easy to criticize, but we must view the mistakes of our forefathers as part of the process of Adam's maturity. Let us not look at them with contempt, since we have less excuse. I love that, Sean Rhodes, and I really agree with you. I mean, I keep stressing, when we read these chapters, that these were humans in their infancy of civilization and religion and ethics, and humans had a long road ahead and they were just beginning. So it's very easy to look back and think, you guys really didn't get it. It's not about changing your clothes. It's about what's inside your heart. But I really do see both humans and God kind of evolving together over time. And I love that phrasing, that this is part of the process of Adam's maturity. Totally. And book by book, they learn more, right? Like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob learned more than Adam had learned. And, in Leviticus, Moshe and Aaron have learned more than the forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Sarah and Rachel and Leah had learned. And it's a cumulative process of understanding and growing, not just as humans, but as humans in relation to God. And I do believe vice versa. I think God grows in understanding and working with humans, or learns about the relationship, which is weird because God knows everything. So how can that be? I don't know the answer. So the goat for the Lord, an offering to the angel of the Lord. I think we've covered all of it. And I'll just end by repeating John's Ray, so amazing, and Betsy Dooner, so amazing. It is so amazing. And once again, I don't know about you guys, but I was downstairs thinking, I just want to watch Netflix, or, I don't really want to observe Shabbat. I just want to kind of look at Pinterest or have a glass of wine, or, chill out, go in the hot tub. We've been having bear issues around here, and now that the bear is gone, I want to make the most of being outside, at least gone for today. But after I come up and start reading and start talking to you guys, I do feel energized and renewed, and I am looking forward to Shabbat. I'm going to go down and light the candles, and I do encourage you, not telling you what to do ever, 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 but I do encourage you to just try turning off your electronics at sundown and just not turning them on again until sundown of Saturday night. and maybe lighting some candles and blessing your food, whether you're Jewish or not Jewish. Maybe pouring a glass of wine, blessing the wine, taking a moment to kind of reflect on the fact that our food comes to us as a gift. Our children come to us as a gift. The people we love, our families, this planet, this earth, our animals, and maybe have a little Shabbat for yourself, however you define it, and let me know how it goes. All right, Shabbat Shalom, you guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow night after sundown.